So it's an independent living in Chico. It's run by Holiday Touch, which has a bunch of facilities all throughout the United States. And their goal is to engage seniors, so they always try to come up with activities, just keep them involved in doing things, kind of staying out of their rooms and, you know, not being so to themselves. So with the facility, they provide the activities, meals, and they even have a hair salon, so it's really fun. And so yeah, the connection started in fall 2013. I was given a really good opportunity to do nutrition education with some of the seniors. So I was doing that once every other week and kind of forming a relationship, doing different talks on heart-healthy foods, just any topic that they wanted to go over. So I formed a connection with the management, and we became really good friends by the end of the semester. And so what happened from there is that my professor, Maria Giovanni, was talking about an AS sustainability grant where it's a student-led project grant where you come up with an idea, something that can better the community or something on campus. If you look around campus at some of the bike stations, those were ideas by students. So there's a lot of really amazing ideas that students have been coming up with, and this sustainability committee was giving grants for that. So she came up with the idea, like, well, why don't you try writing a grant, a little grant proposal, and let's see if we can get the money to start the garden. I'd never written a grant before, so it was a little nerve-wracking, but after going to the proposal meeting and introducing the project, they passed it, and they gave us $1,878 to start building the garden. So we were allowed to start doing that in January of that upcoming year. So, and also a little bit about the garden. One of the visions for the garden was that it would be a veteran victory garden. And victory gardens were used during wartime. It was like a food defense garden. So during World War I and World War II, people were they were planting and trying to make food and provide food just during that time. So we wanted to be able to honor some of the veterans that were at Oakmont and in the community just by having this type of garden. So yeah, so as we began doing some of the garden, we were trying to formulate, okay, personally between Veronica and I, we don't have garden building experience, but there's tons of people in the community that do. And especially within our major and within our school, we're like, we could find connections that could help us. So we contacted Concrete Industry Management on campus, and we were able to get one of the professors and a bunch of the students to do the pathway for our garden. They donated their time, they donated the cement, and they did the pathway in 1 weekend.
Yeah.
So that was pretty amazing. And then we also had a construction management student that donated some of his tools. So when we were doing the garden beds, we're like, I don't own a saw, do you? And he lent us some of the materials to do that. And then we actually had an architect design student. If you see this map on the left-hand side, she took that map and used a program that she normally uses during some of her classes and some of her projects, and she created this beautiful layout plan. So she was able to kind of bring the vision to life, and that was really cool because that's also another skill that we're not necessarily equipped with, but she was. And then Grub, which is in Chico, was a major help. They donated seeds, they gave us ideas of what would be good seasonally, so we were able to work with them. And they brought in a lot of different plants that were very diverse. Like, it wasn't just basil, it was like lemon basil or Thai basil, different types of herbs that would be good for the season. So they were really great help. Earthworm Soil Factory, which is in Durham, they donated, well, they didn't donate, but they gave us a discount for some really good quality compost. So that way we could have the start of our garden really thrive with quality. And then also with some Chico locals, they came out the day we did garden beds, and sometimes we would have people coming in just to help us with the garden beds on days just like after school. They would just come help us out with anything that we needed assistance with. Even Ted was helping us, and it was great. Like, I know he took some weekends off just to help us out, so it was really great. And then also Vectors Veterans, which is also here in Chico and in Red Bluff. They are a big part of Oakmont. One of the Vectors veterans actually teaches physical fitness classes, and and he's a big part of Oakmont. So he was trying to bring in some of the veterans from Vectors, and they were helping out and getting really involved. So that was another amazing experience to get to know them too, because they're hilarious, they're full of life, and they have great stories. So we got to enjoy their presence. And then our last two connections that were really helpful for us, I'll start off with the recreation department. When I wrote the grant, I needed some people's signatures, just that this idea would be worthwhile. So I was talking to a professor named Dr. Leitner, and he focuses on gerontology and physical fitness. So he was kind of giving me ideas of, you know, like with the garden beds, have it a certain measurement in height, so that way they're not straining their backs, and also following ADA guidelines, so that way they can enjoy it and not hurt themselves. So he was a huge help, and he also let us know about a social work professor named Seema Sirwat, and she's incredible. She does so much. She works for OLLI, which is also another organization for older adults, and that's kind of bringing them into different events. So she helped us, and we actually created a memory video, which is an idea that came from Berkeley. So we did that last semester. We'll talk about that more. But anyway, so we were able to create a memory video that kind of signified the whole experience of building the garden and what we wanted for the residents. So that was all within a year that we were able to be in contact with so many people on campus and off campus, and how willing they were to help us. So that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, so we had this great idea and all these great things we wanted to do, but like Danielle said, we had no building experience, no gardening experience, and we really wanted to make this happen, but it came down to we needed help. So luckily we had the guidance of Maria Giovanni and Alma, the manager at Oakmont at the time, to get us in touch with all these great resources that could contribute their knowledge and skills from all these different areas right in our community. So that was really meaningful for both of our educational experience, especially because, you know, just learning through experience that we can make these valuable changes in our community with the support of our community is just, you know, when we look back on our time here, that's definitely going to be what stands out to us, I think. So, so you can see here the concrete industry management students, they're getting experience pouring concrete for the garden. And this was so important for so many reasons. First of all, it transformed the area. You know, we had this little, you can just see it was just a little plot of dirt there. And once that concrete was down, it was like, there's no turning back now. We're going to put a garden here, you know?
Can't really walk away from that one.
Exactly. So it was our first step, and it was like a nice visual, physical representation, like, okay, now we have something to build off from. And it was just great. I was here watching the students get experience. The big truck came in, poured all the concrete, and just watching the whole process was great. And the concrete management professor was there overseeing everything. And so it's cool to see students getting hands-on experience like that. And it was also really important because we needed a nice, smooth, even surface for the garden so the residents could access the beds comfortably with their walkers, wheelchairs, or even just to have a nice, even surface to walk on and not worry about falling over. So that was really important as well. And you can see in the next slide, we have the garden beds being built. So once the concrete was down, we were just ready for those beds. But we needed them, like Danielle said, to be a specific height so that the residents could access them comfortably at a nice posture and tend to the garden themselves. So we needed help figuring out how to build these beds in a specific way. So we consulted with Dylan from Chico Grub, and he really helped us. He met with us at the lumberyard and gave us that practical information that we were lacking about how to make these tall garden beds work out. And so you can see Dylan and Chico Vectors and some local community members just coming and helping, working on the beds. And once they were done, we were just so thrilled. Not only were they what we wanted, but they were just beautiful. They looked amazing. So they were exactly what we wanted, and they looked great. So it was better than we even imagined. So by then, we were ready to put some soil in them because they were looking a little sad without any soil. So we consulted the Earthworm Soil Factory, and when we talked to them about, you know, we could only afford their basic grade soil, and they heard about what it was going toward. They went ahead and just upgraded us at no extra cost. So it was really nice of them, and you'll be able to see in the next picture that it really, really flourished the garden. Like those plants were almost out of control.
Yeah.
So it was great. And so once that dirt and soil was in the beds, we were ready to finally get some starters and put some plants in there. And you can see here, these are the starters we had initially. And that's when we consulted with Sherry from Chico Grub. She was so helpful in not only supplying us with the starters at a really reasonable cost, but just giving us lots of information that we were lacking, like how to space the plants apart, and what kind of sunlight requirements they had, and what grows well in this climate during the season, and everything like that. And so she was just willing to give her time to sit with us and look at the map and really make sense of it all for us. So that was so great. And then you can see we got them all planted with, we all kind of came together and did that. Maria Giovanni was involved and got all the plants in the garden bed. So at this point, we were finally ready to kind of do the stuff we were a little more comfortable with, which was talking about produce and making fun recipes, stuff nutrition students like to do. So we were just thrilled to see we were finally on our way to doing the stuff that we shine in, that more in our element.
Definitely, and it was such a humbling process, because it's like, if I could even imagine us trying to do it on our own. We actually did try to level the ground by ourselves the first time. It was really not great. Ted's nodding his head, because he probably agrees, but yeah, so having the help from the community, the way it ended up looking, that was from multiple people putting in their time and their care for it, so that was great. Can I go to the next slide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so at this point, we wanted to, our first priority was to make sure that we were growing things in the garden that the residents wanted in their garden. And so our main thing was getting the residents together, and it was really helpful to have the management at Oakmont facilitate meetings with getting all the residents together and getting feedback about what they wanted planted in the garden. So we were able to do that, and we came up with a list of what the residents wanted growing. And with that, we met with Chef Clayton, who's the head chef in the kitchen at Oakmont. And that was important because a lot of the residents at Oakmont, they don't have access to their own individual kitchens to prepare their own food. So in order to get them to taste what was growing in the garden, we had to facilitate it through the kitchen there. So Chef Clayton was so great about being open to incorporating what the residents wanted in the garden into the recipes and stuff like that, and also gave us feedback about what he could really use in the kitchen. And then from there, we went to Sherry from Chico Grub to find out what we could actually grow in that climate and in that season. And then, as you can see, the plants that we put in those beds just flourished. They were out of control. So the soil was really good. The sun, the love that was put into it really showed through. So
yeah, that was actually a picture that Veronica texted me over summer, because I had gone home in Southern California, and when I got it, I was like, what in the world? That looks amazing. So it was really exciting to come back to see that. And then also hearing that Chef Clayton was using the herbs and the vegetables in the kitchen, that I thought that was going to be a hurdle that we would have to jump trying to get that into the kitchen. So we were really happy to hear that they had done it themselves, and they were really excited about it. So yeah, it was really great. It was moving along on its own.
Yeah, so then our next step was to start giving presentations at Oakmont, which was what we were really excited about. It was finally in our element, talking about nutrition and making recipes and stuff like that. So as luck would have it, we would get there every other week on a weekday at 10:30 a.m. And that was right when the physical activity class that Dr. Constinius, also known as Tank, was teaching. So the residents that were already interested in health and physical activity were right around the corner from where we were setting up presenting, and we had these nice food samples and stuff, and they were definitely got their appetite up by then. So they would just come right over.